Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Zach, and today I'm with my power panel.
Xenia Semenova.
Riley Livingston.
Pauline Bunyay.
And today we are joined by special guests Dylan and Blake Miskovsky, who you may have seen on their segment Talking Pictures. Well, it's Oscar season, and the Academy Awards are going to be hosted by Jimmy Kimmel once again, and will be held on March 10th. And they will be celebrating all things film, which leads me into today's question. What's your favorite movie?
Well, I know I like Hitchcock and I know I like horror films, and in October, I don't watch any other type of film. It's just the horror gauntlet, and that's it. So we're going to talk about Psycho. You got Vera Miles, you got Janet Leigh, you got Anthony Perkins doing a wonderful performance. I mean, Psycho is just a classic. You gotta admit it. And horror is like one of my favorites, even though there are so many bad horror
And
movies, let's be honest.
isn't it the one of the first films to feature the shower scene?
I mean, yeah, there's so many films that do it afterwards, but Psycho was the classic. Psycho was the initiator, if you will.
How many parodies have you seen of that shower scene? Let's be honest.
The
Seen it
Bates
done in Christmas
Motel. The
Vacation.
Bates Motel is also the TV show that was made by Psycho.
Yeah, yes, it's
inspired.
Psycho definitely
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so
gave
good.
way to
To more
a whole
things.
stream of stuff. I mean, Norman Bates became like a Michael Myers in and of himself, just sequel after sequel until they stopped making those.
Senya, what about you?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of 80s movies. So one of my
course.
favorite is Indiana Jones, Back to the
Nice.
Future,
So
and I love young Harrison Ford. It's my
Yes.
style. So
What's not to like?
Yeah. So I love The Working Girl. I love The Working Girl and this. Yeah, something jackets like this.
I've never seen that movie. I think I've heard of it though. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
How
I'll have to
Weekend,
put it on
yeah.
my list. Yeah.
The
I
Working-
have a lot of favorite movies because I can't pick just one. And I also like TV a lot more than I like movies because it's so much more digestible. But some classics are the 2008 Pride and Prejudice, one of my favorites.
Okay.
Wonderful
Um,
stuff.
Isn't that-
The original Little Woman, not the new
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Nothing
Catherine
against
Hepburn?
Greta.
Catherine Hepburn?
really
No, not that one.
Winona
but
Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
Oh,
Winona
my God.
Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
Yes.
Amazing.
So that's not the
Gillian
original
Armstrong.
probably,
Christian
but
Bale is in that.
yes, Christian Bale's in that one too. He's Laurie. He's awesome as Laurie.
Yes.
But I like a good indie movie, and I wanted to share Garden State, which was written and directed by Zach Braff from Scrubs, and he stars in it. And it's got Natalie Portman, I believe, in it too. It's really good. It's very different, very out there. It's just like a good kind of feel-good indie movie. So that was one that came to mind, and I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that movie.
I don't know. For me, it seems like my favorites. I have to divide them up into sections because there's just too many good ones I've seen out there to be my favorites. I think probably in the horror genre, Friday the 13th is my favorite. In horror, I love the like the slasher genre.
Okay.
Now, whether that may be concerning, we don't know.
No, of course
But,
it's concerning.
Um,
Chucky's concerning.
You love the slasher genre.
I
If I talk about a kid at work that got a bloody nose, you start like turning a different shade of color, and you can't listen to what I'm saying. I think it's hilarious.
I know I'm double-sided in
Yes.
many ways, but one of my favorites is Twister. I love Twister.
Philip Seymour in that?
Yes,
Classic.
yes, he was.
You're waiting for
As-
the new one probably too, yeah?
Yes, and I had spoken about it in our last Let's Talk
Yeah,
about the Super Bowl, how it transported me back to 1996, which, by the way, you can find that also already readily available. So,
Of course you can.
so yeah, I refuse to accept pretty much any other tornado-related film other than Twister. And if somebody comes to me and talks about Sharknado, I will. Pauline, what's your favorite? movie?
Oh, man.
I don't want to get into
Censored
legal
television.
issues here, okay?
Less is more.
No, this is better than Chucky.
No, I don't know. I mean, my favorite movie. I thought that we were talking about 80s movies, but I think that well, if we were talking about favorite movies, it's going to be Anna Karenina
Hey, two for Keira
The-
Knightley, two for Keira Knightley.
from the same director from
Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice.
Yes.
I love that
Forget
movie.
his name.
But usually my favorite movies usually changes, and lately I've watched Poor Things, and that automatically became one of my favorite movies. So it was like, I don't know if you have watched it already, but it's a
No.
crazy movie. Don't watch it with your parents. That would be
Don't
very
Atlantimos
uncomfortable.
film with your
I've
parents.
heard that.
Yeah, no, don't
Poor
watch
Things,
it.
it's called.
Poor Things.
Emma Stone's
Poor
in it.
Things,
Things
yes.
With
I
Emma
heard
Stone.
Emma Stone.
He is
Dark
dominant.
Magician with a lot of nude scenes. So don't.
It's like
Don't
a
watch it.
Saltburn, something like this.
Sorry.
It's like Saltburn or how?
No, it's about like it's way better than that movie in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's like well, I cannot tell you.
It's a
I'll
secret.
tell you. Imagine a Frankenstein but with a woman.
Oh,
Oh.
this is nice.
Something like
Interesting.
that. But it's
Yeah.
like a baby and the baby's brain in a woman's body.
Interesting.
That is a good way of describing that film.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to put it on my list.
Yeah, it's very
Sounds
good.
cool.
Yours?
I've always been a sucker for the year 1939. That's the year that Wizard of Oz came out. It's a classic among all classics. And then Gone with the Wind came out. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington came out, and Stagecoach came out, which made John Wayne a star and made westerns actually profitable at the time. So I would say my film randomizer slot machine wheel, where you randomize it and you spin it, that really did turn me on to westerns as a genre, and how quite possibly every action movie is a western in some way, and
When you distill it down to
when
its
you really
most
distill it
basic
down to its most
elements.
basic elements, Fast and Furious is just westerns with cars. But
Really?
yeah, I mean, if you think about it to its most basic elements, it couldn't be anything else. If it's an action, adventure, comedy, drama, romance,
It's
it has to be a western. And Stagecoach was quite possibly the beginning of that genre's
At its best,
inception
for sure.
at its best. And there are some insane stunts in that. And you mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark. Spielberg took a stunt from Stagecoach and put it in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
Did it with a car.
did it with a car, and made a nice tribute out of it. And it's a really iconic moment from both of those
I
films.
think the unit western that I know is the Back to Future, the third part, and that's it.
Oh yeah, that was,
Yes.
there you go.
Yes,
Bring
yes,
it
that's the
full
only western
circle.
you've ever seen.
There's a
Yes.
western right there.
Yes,
Monument
it's
Valley.
And they filmed it in the same place they filmed Stagecoach. That's how
Oh,
iconic
Oh,
it is.
look at that.
They
So there you
animated
go.
it in cars.
They animated
Oh,
Monument
yes,
Valley in
exactly.
cars,
What
so
do
there
you
you
wanna
go.
say?
Yeah.
You have the right hand so long
All
time.
right. All right, well, that's this edition of Let's Talk. My thanks to both Dylan and Blake for joining us on the panel today. If you want to join in on our fun and tell us your favorite movies, comment down below. You can also find us on Zactech Productions for the full conversation. Until next time, keep talking and listen to each other. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.